Okay, I'm going to try something different in that I'm going to go over some of this paperwork for the preceptor for practicum information so that you all will have it and refer back to it if you need to. I'm going to give you all this information in your packets. But everyone will have this form right here. It's practicum description and objectives, and it's double-sided. You'll have one for each preceptor that you have. So the big important thing is that this needs to be done as soon as possible, basically. Your preceptor signature, as soon as you get the packet, you need to go ahead and sign all of these. You're the faculty signature. You need to go ahead and sign all of these. The student needs to go ahead and sign these, and I will have those of you that can't come to the syllabus review on Thursday, I will have each student sign these. When I give you your folders, you'll do the faculty signature, you'll sign here, and then when you do orientation with the preceptors, you will get the preceptors to sign this part, okay? I always encourage the preceptors to take a look, go through this. I don't want them to sign anything they haven't looked through, so I give them a chance to skim this at least, and then have them sign this. You need to turn these things back into me at the beginning of practicum, so this needs to be done as soon as possible, preferably before practicum starts. I will get all of these back, one for each of your preceptors or for each practicum student that you have. Okay, you will also have these things, a voluntary faculty data form in your packet. I can't figure out this left-right thing. Okay, voluntary faculty data form, and it has the information up here, this employee in college, division, program area, period of appointment, initial appointment. I'll fill all that out. Okay, it would just be easier if I fill it out later. And I give you a little piece of paper on what they need to fill out. But they need to be for sure and fill out the name. I don't need social security number. In fact, I'd rather not have it. But the name and the address, they do need to fill this part out. Their academic preparedness, where they went to college. They need to fill this part out. Their professional experience, their most recent, where they're working right now first. And they need to fill this part out. If they know their Kentucky license number, go ahead and have them put it on here. If they don't know it, we'll look it up, but it's nice if they know it. But most of them don't. It's okay if they don't. And then they need to sign right here, volunteer signature, and date it. And they also need to mark yes or no on whether or not they have professional liability insurance. Okay? All right. So those two forms you need to turn into me early on, like hopefully before practicum even starts, because you're going to go and orient your preceptors before practicum starts. Okay. Also in your folder is the syllabus. So pretty much everything you need to know should be in the syllabus. They have ATI that is due also. You do not need to keep up with ATI, but just so that you know what's expected of them. Okay. In the preceptor folder, which I did not bring to show you, but what you need to go over when you go and orient your preceptors, you basically need to go over what's in the preceptor folder. So within the preceptor folder is a preceptor packet, and in that preceptor packet is this information right here, clinical performance review evaluation. And this is like the checklist of things that the students need to accomplish, and they need to have accomplished every one of these, and they need to get satisfactory performance on all of these in all of these areas for completion to be able to pass. And it tells them what satisfactory performance is over here. They need to get a satisfactory performance to pass the clinical practicum. So it's the student's responsibility to make sure that all of that gets filled out by the preceptor and then signed on the last page of the preceptors. I have to be sure and sign it. Any comments that they want to put on here, their signature, date, time, the student's signature, date, and time, and the course leader, I'll sign those when I get them all back. So I won't get that back until the end of practicum. You'll give that back to me. Also, this needs to be given back to me at the end of practicum. And this is basically just says that they did the competencies which were on the other pages. It's kind of a double work, but it's required by KBN that we do all this work. So you need to fill this out, or the preceptor needs to be sure and fill this out for us. And the student needs to turn it in with their paperwork. There's also, flip the page, sorry, timesheet. The students will have this, and I think I put this in the preceptor packet as well, just so that the preceptors would have it. so they would know, because oftentimes they're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be signing. But what I want to tell you about this is that you need to be checking this kind of frequently, and making sure that they're figuring out their hours correctly. They have to have a mandatory 30-minute lunch break. Whether they're preceptor breaks or not, the students must have a mandatory 30-minute lunch break. They cannot work more than 40 hours in a week. So if the preceptor works overtime, they cannot work overtime. And then they need to have their preceptor signature and preceptor's initial and date. And then at the bottom, it needs to total 120 hours, and the student signs and the preceptor signs and dates at the bottom. This is in the preceptor packet. This is also in the student syllabus. So there are plenty of these around for the student to get this done. But I just want you to note the example here. If they worked 7A to 7P, that's only 11.5 hours. If they work 7A to 7:30P, that's 12 hours. And not that long ago, I had a student that got down to the last. They thought they were done. They turned in their packet, and they were short hours. We had to send them to a different clinical facility with a different person. We just scrounged around, had to ask, and thankfully one of our preceptors was willing to work an extra day. I mean, she was already working, but was willing to take the student on, and the student had to do, I think it was like an extra 6 hours or so to complete her 120 hours, because she had not truly completed the 120 hours because this had not been done correctly. Okay, so you've got to be sure that you're checking that. This gives you just a lot of information on what to expect. So before practicum starts, give these things to me, which are the things that I've already showed you. The first two are the things I've showed you. The other one is just going to the Kentucky Board of Nursing website, putting in your preceptor's name and your license number, and print off their licensure that makes sure that it's that they have renewed for this year. Okay, so these three things need to be handed in to me as soon as possible before practicum starts, if at all possible, which is November 1st. After practicum is over, here's the things that I need turned in. And after practicum, here's what you're going to give the preceptor. Okay. And also just a bunch of general information for you to look over that I normally would just be telling you, but I'm trying to make this short and sweet. You will have one of these for each of your students in your folder, and basically you can use this or you don't have to. It's up to you, but this was just my form to try to help make things easier for you. They need to do they need to do 10 discussion forums, or daily logs they're called, or discussion forums. They need to do 10 of them for the practicum period, for the practicum experience. That's about 3 per week. Now, each of those discussion forums or daily logs is going to be worth 12 points. And that goes down here at the bottom. You can see it's worth 120 points. Then they have a presentation that you need to, that you'll be grading, and they'll be asking you questions about, and that information is in the syllabus, so you can see what they're talking about. And ATI is 40 points, and that's me. I'll be grading that, and for a total of 185 points for them to pass practicum. And the point is, they should be well enough to pass in practicum, okay? They've made it this far, they should be able to pass. But when you're giving them feedback, because on these discussion logs, daily forms, you're reading them, giving them some feedback, sending it back to them. And what you want to see is that they're making some changes that you've suggested, okay? That they're reading it, they're taking it in, they're making the changes, and they're improving each week that they're turning in these logs. Because you really want to have them turn in, usually you'll make however you want it to be. I wanted the preceptors or the student to turn in their daily logs, let's say every Saturday by 11 p.m. And 11 p.m. is just easier for the students because we make their ATI due at 11 p.m. You can have it do however you want to, but I'm just telling you that's usually easier because that's when their ATI is due, is at 11 p.m. But have them, some student may have only been 2 days that week because maybe they're working the weekend and they can't turn in 3 forms that week, and that's fine. But that way you can keep track of, it's usually just easier to have everybody turn in on the same day or by the same date and time so you can look at them. And then you want to give the feedback in a timely manner. So if you're having them turn them in on Saturdays by 11 o'clock, then you'll want to give them feedback preferably by Monday, so that when they're working on the new ones, they have something to go by. What are your expectations? What are they missing? What do they need to be working on? Now, if they're not improving, let's say they turn in their second set of logs and they're the exact same mistakes, exact same problems, you need to contact the student and or make a visit to the facility to talk to the student when they're working and talk to them and give them a little more feedback on what your expectations are and how they need to be improving to get more points. I personally don't usually give points on the daily logs or on the discussion forums. Each time I just give them feedback, and then I make the notes on this form about how many points I think they probably got out of 12, because again, I'm never going to really fail somebody over this, but if they're really not putting in that much effort into it like I want them to do, they also don't deserve an A. Okay, so I often don't put an actual grade number on the discussion forms. When I turn them back, I will just give them back the discussion forms with my feedback on it, and then I keep my own tally over here to make sure that they're improving. They don't need a number. They don't need that. Okay, there's 2 accident report forms. Let's hope we don't ever have to use it. But if there is an accident, you need to fill this out. You need to let me know as soon as possible. We have to discuss it. I usually have the student do a write-up about the accident. What could it prevent, what happened, a narrative note, what happened, how they could prevent it, what they did about the situation, how did they remedy the situation, just as a learning experience, they're not in trouble. And we really want to create a just culture where they're not scared to tell us if they did something wrong, but that they will come to us or document it or whatever and realize that this is the time for them to be learning these things. Okay. I had a student one time give like double the amount of insulin they were supposed to give. I had another student give an inhaled medication in a PO form. The patient took it. I mean, she didn't realize that they were packed, they were done in separate drawers or whatever. The actual container for the inhaled medication was a little capsule that you put in a container and you pop it and it breaks the capsule and then they inhale it. And the student didn't realize that. All that's, nobody's going to, I mean, it's fine, but we got to do an incident report and talk about it. All right, at the very end, this is the preceptor verification form that you will give to the preceptor, but I don't do this till the end. Like literally, I try to go on the last day that the student has practicum or next to the last day, sometime there at the very end, and you give this to the preceptor. And I've given you all the information on exactly what you need to fill out. My phone number is up there. You can put that on there. But basically, you're just going to fill out this square right here and fill out the name, circle nursing student, the name of the nursing student, the dates of the preceptorship, the name of the facility, faculty member, well, that's me, and there's my signature, so that's fine. And position or school, you just need to write BCTC in here, and contact phone number. I'll give you my phone number up here to put on there. Okay, so this is what they need for their CEs so that they get CEs for doing the full 120 hours. This is an old guidelines form that we did several years back. Oops, sorry, care plan guidelines, but I wanted to put this in here just as a reference for you guys because the project that they do that's worth 25 points is basically a big care plan. And so this just kind of helps you with grading that and seeing what they what they should be accomplishing. Hopefully they're turning that into you a little bit early and asking you for some feedback on it. I will encourage them, and you should encourage them not to wait till the last minute. You want to try to go and make at least 3 site visits. So you'll need to go at least the first time to meet the preceptor, do the small orientation with the preceptor, tell him or her what's expected. The student, all this information is in here, but the student can only be on the unit when the preceptor's on the unit. They need to exchange contact information. And so if the preceptor's called off or has to call in sick, he or she needs to contact the student so the student doesn't show up. The student is responsible to let you know whenever they're in the facility, and that's very important. We've had some issues in the past where some students kind of lagged behind on letting their faculty member know what their work hours were, and you'll have to just stay on top of them. That's unacceptable. We're responsible for when they're in the facility, and they should be letting you know well in advance of when they're in the facility, okay? Anytime that the student wants to be off or needs to be off or calls in sick, they need to notify you and their preceptor. And you guys make that decision on if that's okay. The thing is, they have to get these 120 hours in before December 12th. If a preceptor calls in sick, if the preceptor has sick kids, they're off for a week, and then the student has sick kids for a week, they're going to be in trouble to get their 120 hours in. So I tell them they should really work every single day their preceptor is working unless there is an extreme circumstance that they absolutely cannot work. Okay, so Thanksgiving comes into that, and it's their choice. If they don't want to work it, they don't have to.